Thank you, Luca and Stephen. Look, there's people coming in. There's other writers appearing. Just a reminder for any, I'm sure you all know that all the money you've spent on these tickets is going to support the Trussell Trust, which look after two-thirds of food banks in this country. So an amazingly good cause. And I should also mention that you get a special link which will give you 30% off books by all the writers featured in the festival who are giving their time for nothing. You can get 30% off their books at Waterstones. Welcome to this panel. As Luca and Steve said, we're going to be talking about what it's like to write at home, what it's like normally, what it's like abnormally, as it's been during this pandemic. And I'm joined by three fantastic writers who are C.L. Taylor, who's the bottom right of my screen. I don't know where she's going to be on your screen, but she's the author of 7 fabulous psychological thrillers, including Sleep and Strangers, and her next novel, Her Last Holiday, is published at the end of this month. Wearing the snazziest shirt you're going to see all weekend is the fabulous Martyn Waits, who is the author of the Stephen Larkin series, the Joe Donovan series, and most recently the Tom Kilgannon series, the most recent of those books being The Sinner. And last, we have the fabulous Fiona Cummins, who is the award-winning author of the acclaimed debut novel Rattle, which was followed by The Collector and The Neighbour, and her next novel, When I Was 10, is published next week. But you can get 30% off that one with your link, and 30% off C.L. Taylor's new one, and off Martyn's most recent book. So what has it been like for us all working at home? I'm going to start with you, Fiona, because you clearly work in a sauna. So what is it like normally working at home, and how has that changed?
It looks like a sauna, doesn't it? I wish it was a sauna. This is my shed. Those of you who follow me on Twitter may have seen me tweet about it a little bit. Basically, working from home, the reason I'm in the shed is I had a study in the house and I got kicked out of that. The sitting room was taken over by my 11-year-old. The dining room was taken over by my 12-year-old. The kitchen the table is too high for me to sit on it comfortably because I'm only 5'1", so I'm quite small. So I've got really bad backache, and there was nowhere for me to work in the house. I was getting really annoyed about it. And we had a little shed at the end of the garden, and it's been insulated. It's got lights. I'm going for sort of, Yellowstone Park cabin rustic chic. It's got a bed in it, so wow. I have been known to have the odd nap 10-minute.
The bed, I don't understand the bed. How far from your house is it?
It's like just down the garden. Look, it's got a lock as well. I think, what does that tell you, Mark?
Okay. So this is something you set up. You set this up because of lockdown, because of everything that's happening in your house.
Yeah, because I didn't have a space to work and to write.
But are you going to carry on working in there once everything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never giving this up. I might move in. I might install a toilet, a miniature fridge. It's been really good. But it was an absolute nightmare to work in the house because the kids were homeschooling. My husband was on very loud conference calls quite frequently, and I just couldn't think straight at all. So I found it really hard to
You raise an interesting point, which is the thing about kids, which is that most of us would work from home normally, but when you're suddenly working from home and the rest of your family are at home and you've got young kids to deal with, then it's altogether different. I know that doesn't apply to me or Martyn, but it applies to you, Callie, right?
Yeah, that's right. I've got a 9-year-old son. So in the first lockdown, half of my day was homeschooling. And the other half of my day was putting on noise blocking headphones so I wouldn't hear shouts of "No, he kicked me out of the game" as my son played Fortnite at full volume in the living room. So it's a weird one because normally I would be at home alone. My son would be at school, my partner would be at work. The dog doesn't even come up the stairs because she knows this is where the bath is, upstairs, so she stays downstairs. So I'm completely alone and I can completely concentrate. But when my son is still in the house, there's a part of me, even though he's 9 and he's quite self-sufficient, that is listening out, and you can't fully immerse yourself in what you're writing if you've got one ear out for what's going on in the real world.
Well, I say it doesn't apply to me and Martyn. I've got 2 kids living with me. They just happen to be in their 20s, but they're still in the house. I mean, so Martyn, you were somebody who would work at home normally. You're not one of these writers. I mean, there are plenty of them who go write in pubs and coffee shops and whatever, but you're somebody who would write at home. How has it been different in terms of how easy or difficult have you found it to focus and work?
Well, I mean, I didn't realize just how much. I mean, the room that I'm in it's kind of, I wanted to write somewhere that was like a representation of the inside of my head.
Oh,
so that I felt like, I know.
Is that wise?
So yes, I mean, knowing what's on the shelves in here, no, it's not particularly wise at all. But I just wanted somewhere that, I could, like, that would be my space. And I mean, I've always had that, or strive to have that wherever I've lived. And yeah, my kids are grown up, and they live in different parts of the country. So, that wasn't an issue. But normally I would write here. And then when I get bored here, I'd go downstairs and write at the dining room table. And then if I get bored there, I'll go for a walk. And this is what I didn't realize I do quite a lot of. I would go for a walk to like a coffee shop and sit there. I mean, I don't know how much work I could get done because, when, I don't know if it's the same for everybody else, but when I'm working, it's kind of, it's a lot of it's thinking. And if you're doing that in public, it looks like you've got kind of resting serial killer face. When, because all you're doing is just sitting there with a laptop or a notepad in front of you. And, you've got your coffee and there's people around you all the time. And all you're doing is sitting there going.
But isn't that what you've missed? Because I think that's why I found it so difficult to find my creative focus during lockdown, because I've realized how much I magpie from overhearing conversations, seeing people move and talk, the gestures they use, the kind of physical tics someone might have, like all of that stuff, like you absorb it subconsciously all the time, and it all feeds into my writing. So not being able to do that, I found really problematic.
Well, I mean, what we have been given, of course, is time, loads and loads of time, because we're not having to worry about those pesky book events. And I'm joking, of course, because we all miss them like crazy, obviously. But, we haven't had to be away for a weekend here doing that, or on a train to Newcastle for a library event or whatever it is. Loads and loads of time. But how has that translated for each of us into actual productivity in terms of, I mean, just to piss you all off, I've written 2 novels and a screenplay.
Yeah,
I honestly, I do not know why or how. I just didn't sort of stop. I was more disciplined probably than, because I'm not worried about, I've got to be at Norwich Library on Wednesday night, and my head's full of worried too much about that and not doing enough writing. And all I've done is write. But I understand a lot of writers have not been that productive. What about you three?
No, I really struggled. Not so much now. My brain seems to have cleared, but last year, in the heart of lockdown 1, I just couldn't think anymore. I think it was, from what Emma Cavanagh, who's a psychiatrist, has said, it's to do with the stress response. So the creative side of your brain dumbs down because the fight or flight part of your brain is firing. So I just couldn't think, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't read. At one point, I couldn't even watch telly because I could not concentrate on a storyline. So for me, I normally write the first draft of one of my books in about 4.5 months. It took me 6 months. I had to get an extension for the first time in my career. I did do some edits on my young adult book as well. So if you look at it, I was quite productive last year. I kind of finished 2 books, but I massively struggled and it was hard for me.
Oh God, that makes such sense. I'm now convinced that the 2 novels I've written are both rubbish. But I wrote them quickly, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. What about you, Martyn and Fiona? Have you found it useful time?
Well, the first lockdown, no. I mean, I couldn't. I was, because it was so new, and you didn't know how bad the pandemic was going to be, what it was going to entail. There was such a lot of unknowns that if you stepped outside, you could die. I mean, that was, a lot of the not at all alarmist coverage that we had at the time, was saying that. So, and when you're sitting in a room surrounded by all the things from inside your head, trying to blot out the rest of the world, and all you've got is the inside of your head, then that's a terrifying place to be, in the middle of somewhere that's terrifying outside. because you can't get anything done. So the first thing I did in the first lockdown was I did the garden. I laid a new patio. I got like half a ton of limestone slates and put them all down and done the whole lot. Done a new fence by hand, built it. Didn't use panels or anything. Built it.
All right. I did some jigsaws. You're more manly than me, Martyn.
No, because and I did all this. I lost 2 stone in weight. I was looking
wow.
And I put it all
patio
back
diet.
On, and it was just, and I did everything. Got a gorgeous new garden out of it. Spent all the time doing that, but I just wanted to make sure that I couldn't even write. But I would get up in the morning and I would start work, and I would be doing, and it was all physical work. I ended up with exhaustion and heat stroke and everything. And then, I was just ready to sleep at night, so I didn't have to think. But as it's gone, and then in between times, I was having like lots of family stuff going on that I had to go from Devon to Newcastle for. So it just wasn't conducive to sitting down and writing a book about people getting murdered, really.
What about you? I guess you found it easy either.
Well, I was just going to say it was interesting what Martyn just said about sleeping, because actually I've just had savage insomnia through almost all of lockdown. I don't really know why. I think there's kind of a sort of low-level anxiety that's just been there in the background all the time. I think I probably echo pretty much what Callie said in terms of just not being able to access the part of my brain that would, that is the writerly part of my brain, because it's doing other things, it's worrying about other stuff. And so the first lockdown I was fine though, because I didn't have a pressing deadline. My book I knew was going to be delayed. My book that's coming out this week was going to be delayed, so my deadline was already put back a little bit. And but I've just found it's so difficult to find creative focus. It's not that I don't sit here, because I do. I sit down for ages. But I just don't write very much. And I don't know why that's been. But having a deadline, I'm due to deliver a book today.
Oh.
I am just...
We'll let you get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just on the last kind of, 5 pages of my read through. And so I'm hoping that I'm going to... you do it in the end, don't you? In the end, you pull it out of the bag, because what choice do you have? It's your job. And I feel like I've been glued to this seat for the last 976 hours of my life. We all know what it's like when you get towards the end of a book. But but I have achieved that. I've done it in spite of everything. And I found it difficult. It's my 5th book. It's been the most difficult book of my career to write, I would say.
Well, I think what Martyn said there was really interesting in terms of, because of everything that's happening outside, and you're just seeing the daily death figures, and you're seeing how terrible it all is. I felt, even though I felt like I was being productive, so I don't know about what you would all consider a good word count, for example. I mean, I would, if I've done 1,500 words in a day, that's a bloody good day, right? Very happy with that. Sometimes during lockdown, I'd do 3,000 words and I'd go, 3,000, that's fantastic. Then I'd read them, and at the end of them, I'd go, it's just a book. What, do you know what I mean? In the scheme of things, it means jack shit. It made me feel that everything was really unimportant and trivial, compared to what was happening in the world. You just think we're just writing stories, Yeah,
but I think the thing is, what's been interesting to me is actually the stories have been really important. Stories, music, films, television, because that's what people have been consuming during these lockdowns. And without them, I don't know, obviously you're not saving someone's life, or anything as, vital and important as that. But I do think, well, actually, it's, writing books, authors, they have a part to play as well, don't they? It's a different kind of thing. But people have turned to, to books. They've consumed loads of books, haven't they, during lockdown? So
they have, although, of course, anecdotally, I'm sure you've had readers communicate with you to say how hard they've found it to read. Some people have found it very hard, in the way where you were talking, Callie, about not being able to watch TV. Or whoever it was that said not being able to watch TV. I think some readers have I found reading quite hard, actually. Reading fiction I found quite hard. What about you? What about you, Callie? You feel you've been more productive, less productive? Do you feel like the level of productivity you've got to now will carry on, or you want to increase it, or?
I don't feel like I'm back to my best. When you said you hit 3,000 words, I was like, oh, I dream of 3,000 words.
I dream of 3,000.
I dream of 3.
Yeah, I last year I was lucky if I wrote 500 words a day. And like Fiona said, I would sit at my desk all day and all I would get out was 500 words. Now I've just started book 9. I actually started it a couple of days ago. The first idea that I had for the book, I worked on for 2.5 months, doing research, trying to bring the plot together, writing an outline, and it didn't work. And again, at first in my career, I ditched an idea. And I think that's maybe because my brain just wasn't firing on all cylinders, or maybe I was just a bit panicked. But yeah, my editor agreed, like, it's not working. Do you want to work on it with me, or do you want to write something else? And I was like, write something else. And I think that freedom freed my brain up as well, because I came up with another idea, worked it all out in a month, and I've started writing it now. I'm still slow. I mean, it's taken me 3 days to write 1,600 words. But for me, that feels like progress, considering I feel like I wasted the last 2.5 months. So I'm getting there, but I think it's going to be a while until I reach my old peak, which would have been about 2,000, 2,500 a day, if I was having a good day.
I also think lockdown's going to change the way that I write, because in the past I've been a pantser, like a total pantser. So I just have the idea, I have a couple of kind of reveals or twists that I think of. I generally know the beginning and the end, and then off I go. And I've done that with all of my books, but I found it so difficult doing it with this book, and it's made me just think, right, my next book, I'm going to have a go at doing a really detailed outline and see how that is, if that works. I mean, do you guys all outline, or do you, I mean, because I think okay, that's one of the reasons I perhaps came a little bit unstuck as well, because I didn't have like a roadmap. I keep it all in my head, but my head was so full of all this other stuff as well that it's been difficult.
So the next time we see you in your shed, those lovely pine walls are going to be covered in kind of post-it notes and little arrows and
maybe I've got this is
whiteboard. Yeah,
this is it at the moment. My clipboard with loads of scribbles.
Oh, there you go. I'm pretty much exactly like you. I have a whiteboard. It's over there, but I swear to you, if I could be asked to move my computer, you'd see it. All it says is "Get dressed, buy cheese, write novel." That is what write novel doesn't really help me. Okay, so Martyn and Callie, are you plotters, pantsers, somewhere in between?
I used to plot really, really structuredly. Structuredly, is that a word? I don't know.
It is now.
It is now, yeah. And I used to detail everything, and it became no fun, because all I was doing was kind of, that was where the creative act was. So I was writing these really detailed plans and plots, and then I was typing them up, and then and it was just sitting there, and I thought this should. But then what started to happen was that things would start to veer off into a different direction. So I'd think, oh, hold on a minute, So my big plan that I had all along the wall, that I would look at, I'd think, hold on, that's not going to work, because this is happening now. And this seems more interesting. So then I would do, just big lines through it. And it looked like a kind of serial killer's den by the end of it, with lines going backwards and forwards and this way and that. And, and so I thought, so what I tried to do was, then do about the first quarter of the novel and audition the characters and see if I liked the voices and if they interacted with other characters, and what bounced off them, and what I got from that, with an idea of where the story would go. And then if they didn't work, or if they did work, then they were kind of bumped up the rankings and the other ones were killed off. And that kind of did me all right. But this time, I mean, I've just started writing, well, not just, I mean, I've ditched it twice. Like Callie was saying, it's so hard to just get your mind focused on the idea that you want. I ditched this book twice that I wanted to start last summer, and didn't get around to start until about January. And I'm on the third attempt of it now. And this has taken an awful lot of planning and structure, just to try and keep my head focused on it, really, and just keep knowing what I'm doing. So I think, I've gone back to doing that again.
What about you, Callie?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've tried everything. I've tried pantsing with my second book.
Pantsing. I love the fact that's now become a verb. You pants.
Pants. But it was the worst edits of my career. So I was like, I'm not doing that again. I've tried outlining because I read James Patterson did that. And for me, that took all the magic out of writing because it was so prescriptive that there was no fun and joy. So now I'm kind of somewhere in between. I will give you a brief flash.
Oh, hello. What are we? Well, there you go. Color coded. Look at that.
The different characters and different threads. It's not complete because I've left quite a big space at the end. But I kind of know enough. Like Martyn said, often you veer off. And so I've got spaces to get to know the characters. And yeah, it's not prescriptive, but it's a roadmap. I think, as Fiona said, that helps me feel less scared when I start.
Well, we got a little glimpse there of little glimpse of what's around Callie. And in the second half of our conversation, I do want to talk specifically about the spaces we work in, about the nonsense we have around us, the inside of Martyn's head, essentially, and also going to be feeding in questions. So just to say to anybody that's watching, please talk amongst yourselves in the chat and feed any questions you've got. We've already got some in the Q&A, and then I'll feed them in towards the end. But so before we talk about like the stuff we have around us, I was very flippant at the beginning of the conversation about the fact that we're not going to these silly festivals and so on, but just how much have we all missed them? I mean, how desperate are we to get back to that?
So desperate. I can't tell you how desperate. And like, I've booked a few things in, and I'm supposed to be going on a writing retreat. I'm booked to go to Harrogate. I'm potentially going to another festival in Lyme. You know, I mean, I'm like, I am there. Everything. In fact, anything I'm invited to, I will go to. Just invite me. So that's how desperate I am. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, you know, being flippant about it, we'll have to see how things are, what the state of the world is at any given time.
I mean, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? We're all desperate for human contact, and so, but it's going to be a different sort of human contact. You see somebody you haven't seen for a year and a half, and your natural instinct is, and then and you're all 2 meters apart. It's going to be different, isn't it?
Well, different, and also that's what worries me because, you know, given our reputation for hard drinking, hard living,
I don't know what you're talking about.
The second you get drunk and all of your kind of, you're like, oh no, don't come near me, don't come near me, don't come near me. Oh, come and cuddle me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when you've had 90-12 Jack Daniels or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, that'll be interesting to see. I think
other bourbons are available.
Yeah,
and better bourbons, Fiona, I will say.
I like them, although I have moved on to vodka quite a lot during lockdown. I mean, that's the other thing, drinking habits, isn't it? But
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Have we all been drinking more?
God, yes.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Straight, no nonsense yet.
No,
I've cut down, I would say. I've cut down. Yeah, I'm trying to live my purest life at the moment.
Well, is there any alcohol in the shed right now? Is there? Okay, I've cut down, she says, with a cocktail at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, she's cut down to 2
I've got
drinks
book to deliver. Come on, you've got to. This is my celebratory end of book drink. Come on, but no, I've tried to be sensible. I did go through in the first lockdown, because it kind of coincided with all that really nice weather. I've got this book at home called The Cocktail Bible. So I was just working through it methodically, every cocktail, to see which ones I liked and which ones I didn't. That was really fun, but probably not that. Maybe there's a correlation there between doing that and then not getting as much writing done as I'd like. Who knows? But no, I've been quite chaste, I would say, regarding alcohol during lockdown.
Well, let me feed a couple of questions in. Sandra McDonald says, and this is specifically for Callie and Fiona, women still seem to have to do the bulk of the childcare, even if men are also at home. So has this affected women's writing output more than men's during lockdown?
Ooh, I think it has. I mean, my partner was great because I would do the morning. Well, I would do the morning stuff, which was like the paper-based stuff that school sent home. And then in the afternoon, my partner would take over. But he basically got some kind of Coding Kingdoms thing on the laptop for my son and would just plonk him next to him and just leave him to it. So it was less hands-on. But I think from talking to lots of other female writers that the women have perhaps suffered more than the men. in terms of productivity, because so much of it is just worry, and worrying. Like, you know, my son's an only child, and I was like, you know, how is this affecting his mental health, not seeing another child for months and months on end? My partner was a bit more laissez-faire. He was like, yeah, he'll be fine, he's on Fortnite every day talking to his friends. So maybe it's a personality type thing. I'm more of a worrier, but it definitely affected women, just from conversations I've had with friends who, you know, even aren't writers. Trying to juggle the whole childcare thing is tricky.
I think it's really difficult. I mean, you know, one of the reasons that I wanted to become a full-time writer was because of the flexibility that would be involved with children as well. And I think it was difficult because my husband worked very intense hours, very long hours, and so the person who was going to supervise, you know, I was the only person there to sort of supervise the homeschooling. And at the start of lockdown, when it was all, I mean, now it's really slick, but it was all over the place. So I was kind of trying to make sure that they were doing what they should be doing while trying to juggle my own work. I mean, at one point, my husband did say to me, he'd read, there was like some survey or something that said that the bulk of childcare, housework, shopping, cooking, everything was falling to women during lockdown. And he came and said, I think that's what's been happening here. I'll step up. And he did, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, I found it really difficult. And then what happened was, when the pressure of my deadline became greater, I then just said, I'm going to have to you know, leave my children in an atmosphere of benign neglect. And as long as they have clean pants and food and they're doing their schoolwork that they should be doing, I'm going up to the shed to work, which is what I did. And my daughter is incredibly conscientious and was producing like this amazing work during lockdown without any supervision or input from me. My son, when I went to check on him, he was in one screen, had his science teacher or whatever talking about I don't know, some experiment, and then the other screen had a YouTube video on you know, whatever was into Fortnite or whatever it was. And I was like, right, just shut YouTube down during the day so the temptation is not there. It's hard for them, isn't it? It's so boring for them to sit in front of a screen all day and have you know, a teacher just talk at them in a really drony, boring voice. I mean, you know,
Fiona, did you ever find yourself in this situation where you went, okay, they've got clean pants, they've got a packet of biscuits, mum's got to go and write her novel now, right? So look after yourself. And then you go, and then half an hour later find one of your kids coming into the shed and just finding you having a nap in the bed.
Yeah, I mean, that is like that. Yeah, that has happened. Or like, why are you on your phone? Get off your phone. And I'm like, oh, I'm working. Or sometimes I would get like a note through the door so that I wouldn't be interrupted, but there'd be a delivery and it says, please, can I have a packet of what's it? Or like, you know, that kind of thing. So, but like, they, you know, to be honest, they've been brilliant. You know, it's been hard for them. They've just got on with it, and I've been a bit relaxed about it, to be honest. They're doing all right at school, and you know, there's so much else to worry about, isn't there? So yeah, you know, they're pretty resilient.
A few more questions. This is for you, Martyn, from Louise Fairbairn. It says, Martyn, is there anything underneath the patio?
Yeah, the last patio.
Okay. I think they've read your books. And
no, nothing. Although I did think, you know, that this would be the perfect opportunity. Yeah. No, just a hell of a lot of hard work. And the previous patio, which I broke up and then put back in as hardcore.
Fair enough.
I should have my own YouTube channel.
Okay. Alex Hawley wants to know how we found the process of communicating with other people involved in the process of writing during lockdown. I guess what he means is, you know, talking to editors, talking to our publisher, talking to, you know, I mean, I'm guessing we've all just been doing it on the phone and on Zoom, haven't we? I mean,
most of my meetings have happened on Zoom. They've been quite nice. I've had kind of contact. I've always felt that my agent and my editor are very accessible if I want them to be, but I haven't particularly felt the need to have a lot of contact with them. The people that have saved me through this year have been fellow writers, I have to say, because, you know, the crime writing community particularly is so sort of warm and inclusive, and I've lent so much on my writing friends, I would say, because, you know, it's a unique situation, isn't it? Sort of being a writer, having books either coming out in lockdown or books being delayed or kind of trying to write, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, so that's kind of where my sort of supports come from, I think.
One of the things I've certainly missed is when you're talking to a bunch of other writers, and there is normally alcohol involved, as Fiona has suggested, but we're sitting in the pub and you're just going, oh, I'm so stuck in this. I've just no idea how to get out of this hole I've dug myself into in the middle. And by the time you've had a couple of drinks and a few writers have chipped in, you go away knowing what to do. That's a hard conversation to have on Zoom or on the phone or on.
It is. That's what I miss a lot, because, I mean, there is. I got invited to a kind of writers group on a Friday night that people just get together and chat, but it's a Zoom thing, and it's very hard to, like this. I'm talking, three of you are saying nothing. Now in a pub, if everybody would be talking at the same time, and no one would be listening. So that's kind of, that's kind of what you miss, really. Is that just the interaction? I mean, this is great. This is the most interaction that I've had with anybody else, that apart from people I live with, and I include the cat and the dog. For weeks, I think. This is great, because I mean, I've just been sitting here on my own.
I do quite a lot of Zoom things with my friends and things. I think they have, but like you say, there's either one person that kind of completely dominates and then people don't say anything, and smaller groups are better, I've discovered, I think.
I've tried to brainstorm with my partner, because I've missed writing retreats and stuff where you can do that. Unfortunately, he's a massive sci-fi fan, so he just says add more spaceships. Yeah. Doesn't matter what the problem is, it's just
sounds good. It sounds good advice. I'll tell you what. Oh, come on, Callie. Readers are not going to be expecting that. They're really not.
There's a twist you didn't see.
Jesus, there's a twist. Have you read C.L. Taylor's new one? There's a hell of a twist in the end. This is a great question from Julie Benson, who says, have we found it a hindrance not being able to go anywhere to do physical research? I don't know how much either any of you three would go to places, do that kind of recceing of locations.
I haven't. I mean, because the one that I'm working on at the moment, I mean, a lot of the research is very psychological. So you don't really have to go anywhere to do that. I can phone people and talk to them and read things about it and go online. So that's quite. I'm not giving anything away, but that's quite easy in that respect. But I think if it's something specific, I mean, the one before this was, which I've written, the one I wrote last year, which is coming out in America next year, is set in Cornwall. And I used to always love an excuse to just kind of go away for a few days and claim it was tax deductible. So I mean, that's the kind of, just kind of driving around and stopping at B&Bs and things and going for meals and drinks, and that's what I miss. But and claiming it for tax, because I mean that's
that's twice you've mentioned tax, Martyn. I hope HMRC aren't watching.
This is legitimate, absolutely. The shirt will be going in or there'll be a character wearing this at some point. So I'll be playing this.
Okay. Leslie's got a question that I think is aimed is as a result of something that both Callie and Martyn said, which is, how did you know to scrap the bad ideas? That's a really good question. How did you know?
For me, it's a gut instinct thing. You know in your gut if an idea has legs and if it's working, because you kind of have had that kind of bubble of excitement, and you start to really look forward to writing it, because you're like, it's that belief that this is going to be the best book I've ever written. I can't wait to write it. I'm so excited. Whereas the idea that I scrapped, I was like, I'm not ready to write it yet. No, I'm not looking forward to writing it yet. And it was that gut feeling that it wasn't quite working. And then as soon as my editor said to me, nah, it's not, I actually felt a massive sense of relief, because I tried so hard to make it work. I changed direction and I killed off characters and I put twists in, but the heart of the novel, the way it sat together, just wasn't right. And then with the next one, I just knew, it's like that instinct thing. I just knew as I pieced bits together, yes, this works.
Right. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I the first draft that I wrote of it, I thought it's not there yet. It's, it's kind of right, but I think I'm just rushing it because I've had the idea and I think that it should just come naturally, and it doesn't. So I scrapped that and I wrote it again, and I wrote about 50 pages of it, and I let my wife read it. And her first comment was silence. So I thought that's never a good sign. And her second comment was, are we supposed to hate all the characters in this? So I figured that, and she said, no, it's good. And, every time that your voice goes high when you describe something like that, it's not. So, we sat down and she had a chat and she told me everything that was wrong with it. It was quite a long chat. And I ditched it and started again. And the one that I've started again on now, I think it feels right. In fact, I think that it feels like, I keep saying to myself, no, push it further, go out further with it, wade out into the waterway, you could get carried away. That's what it feels, don't keep paddling in the shallows, do something different.
Okay, one more question before we start revealing what we have around us. Carmen wants to know what our comfort food / activity has been in the past year. Has anybody found? I mean, I mentioned the jigsaws, and I don't just want to throw that away. I must have done 70 jigsaws. I hadn't done a jigsaw since I was a kid, and I'm digging in a cupboard a week into lockdown, and I found this jigsaw of the Sgt. Pepper album cover that I think my wife had bought me for Christmas about 10 years ago, and I'd gone, oh, a jigsaw, lovely, and put it in the cupboard. And I dug it out for lockdown, and like a switch went off in my head, and I just couldn't stop. And the minute I get towards the end of finishing a jigsaw, I have to order another one, and I've got a pile of them like 6 feet high now. I absolutely love it. It's so kind of relaxing, and there's such a ridiculous sense of achievement when you put a piece in and you finish. So for me, it's been jigsaws. What about anybody else?
Well, not jigsaws. I tried doing a jigsaw in the first lockdown. I had one of James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause film poster.
Right.
And I got right through to the end and found out there was a piece missing. I was just so, that did me for that. Okay. So no more jigsaws after that.
Fiona, any hobbies come to light?
I think so. In the first lockdown, we talked about sort of drinking, but also cooking. So we did. I did like a theme night every Wednesday, so everyone could choose. So like we might have like a Chinese theme night or Mexican or Indian, and I used to do this kind of like buffet or banquet type thing. But then as a result of that, my second hobby then became walking, because having eaten too much, I stopped doing that and then just walked miles and miles and miles. That's what I've done to kind of keep me sane, I think. So it's been really helpful.
So when you say theme nights, just food, there wasn't like music?
Yeah. You can dress up if you wanted.
Okay.
And other activities. But yeah.
Callie?
Kind of two. So comfort food was definitely cheese. I even did a virtual cheese tasting where I got sent some cheese in the post, and then watched a Facebook Live, and it was actually really nice. Really enjoyed tasting different cheese. And every evening, my little snack of choice before bed was cheese. But in terms of hobbies, I guess I finished Couch to 5K during the first lockdown. And I've been running ever since. I'm not nature's natural runner. I'm very tall and I'm very heavy, so I'm more of a plodder. But in terms of getting rid of stress and getting out of the house, it's been brilliant. It's been a lifesaver, really. And then the new one for this lockdown was doing online art classes. I'm doing this portrait class where you get a different teacher every week. And I have probably spent what I would have spent on a holiday on art materials. And I now share my office with loads of paint, paper, coloured pencils. But I love it. For me, I can get away from social media for about 4 or 5 hours on a weekend, and all I'm doing is just painting. I'm not very good, but I just love it.
I agree with you. I mean, I make models. Which nodding blankly, does he?
Let's have a look at some, Martyn. Now he's as good a time as any to start having a look at the stuff that we've got around us. And I'm guessing you've got a few models.
I may have. I've got here. Just
come on then.
But yeah, this kept me going over Christmas. This is This is the Grim Reaper.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
There
is.
it is with his sign, and you can't actually see a lot of the detail that I put on it there. And I put a lot of detail on it at the back, which nobody sees because it goes on the bookshelf behind me there. But yeah, when I was a kid, I used to do the glow in the dark model kits, like the Aurora ones for the old Universal monsters. And I used to win competitions for them. So when I started, in fact, you can see the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster just there, and there's the mummy, Boris Karloff as the mummy there. And I bought these
in a sarcophagus. In a sarcophagus,
yeah. So and I just look out for when things are coming up, and there was the Grim Reaper. And I thought, what better to take your mind off a pandemic than to make a model of the Grim Reaper? What fun would that be? So I did that one, and then I followed that up with one that I'm particularly proud of, actually. It's Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde.
Oh, look at it. Oh, yes. Oh, that's great.
I
love this.
What do you do though? Do you paint them? Like, so what exactly? Do you put the pieces together and then paint them? How does it work?
Oh yeah, you just get them as a model kit.
Okay.
And then once you've got them, or do them in bits, and then I paint them up, and very, very delicate. I mean, he was meant to look a bit disheveled. I mean, there's stuff there, there's actually things spilt on his table. I don't know if you can see there, and tubes going in and out, and it keeps me off the street.
Do you have one of those special magnifying things that you have to put on your glasses or whatever, like a jewel?
Not yet, but I do have 2 different pairs of glasses, and one for close-up work. For writing and close-up work and stuff. And but yeah, I mean, I do, I like to do them because it's like Callie says, it takes your mind off what you're doing. It's still being creative, but it's using a different part of your brain.
Right.
And and you go back, one goes back, I go back to the writing then, kind of feeling a bit more refreshed. And it's shorter than writing a novel. And you can kind of take the time to do that and think, yeah, I've done that. I can still be creative, even though it's a hard slog with writing a novel. So, this is kind of, I can still do that. And I've got something to show at the end of it.
So Fiona, let's have a look at what else is in the shed.
Well, the shed is very bare. There's a bed, like I said. Hang on, I'll see if I can move it. There's a
look at that.
Oh,
nice cushions. Nice cushions.
This is my so I can be here. Hang on, is it going to work? No, they're not coming on. My lights for some reason are not working. But, but this is what I've been reading a lot of.
Oh, okie dokie.
It's very good.
It's just a little hint that we shouldn't drink one of those cocktails you've made.
Yeah.
It tells you. Well, the thing I like particularly is it tells you what you can, what garden plants you can use to kill people. And also, I thought it was quite interesting because there's loads of case studies in here about poisonings, and rather aptly, there's one about hand sanitizer. You can poison yourself with a hand sanitizer. There's a case of a 6-year-old girl who did that. So that's kind of been a little light reading for me. But no, to be honest, actually, I find it really difficult to work with too much clutter. I like a really clear space, and so that's what this is. That's the whole point of having this, because the house is like a complete state, but this room is very tidy indeed. Well, so I haven't got any models in here. I was looking for I have got some kind of creepy puppet, but I couldn't find it, so sorry.
I'm guessing you're the only one out of only 4 of us here, I'm guessing, who don't like clutter. I think I'm not saying your place looks cluttered, Callie, but there's lots of stuff about it. There's a skull on a shelf. I can see the skull on the shelf. And the other thing I saw when you gave us a little glimpse of your board with all the post-its, saw a big collection of vinyl in there.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, let's have a look. So what about music? Where have you been doing a lot of listening to music as you work?
How do I switch that around?
Look at that. Lots of books, obviously.
Hang on. I'm trying to get it to go the other way around. Is it going the other way around? Can you see?
No, it's the opposite. This is the opposite. Oh, look, there you go. So what have we got on the shelves there? Oh, and there's all the vinyl. Oh, look at that. Record player.
So there's the vinyl.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to this when I'm writing because it's got lyrics, most of this.
Yeah.
So I listen to instrumental film soundtracks on my computer when I'm writing. So this is for like if I'm doing a bit of admin or whatever, I'll put some of that on. And then how many wires am I going to?
Oh, look at that skull. Look at that lovely skull.
So
Is it a real
this,
one?
can you see the Wilson? Where's my?
Oh
finger?
yes, the basketball.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
literally, because I wrote a YA book called The Island, so I bought this, and I only realised why he was called Wilson when I saw my son's basketball, and I was like, it says Wilson on it. That's why it's called Wilson. Sometimes. And then the skull was a present from my partner. I don't think it's a real skull.
Oh,
Right.
But I like to dress him up. He wears a Christmas hat at Christmas, and
Yeah.
sometimes he wears a tiara. And then random Monchichis, which I loved in the 80s, and my sister bought me one. And what other toys have we got in here? Mr. Ben and the Shopkeeper. Which
Mr.
were
Ben! As
for
if
my
by
son.
magic, the shopkeeper appeared.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I've got a Poppington up there. Oh, I made a model. I made a Harry Potter flapping owl in first lockdown. Whoops.
Oh, hello.
Winging
right.
it all over.
There you go. Well, key question, Callie. Are those albums in alphabetical order?
God, no, I'm not nearly that anal.
The horror. The horror that they're not in alphabetical order. Oh, my Lord.
Don't keep mine in alphabetical order, though. I keep mine in who I think would get on well together if they went to the dinner party. I do the same with my books as well. I've got,
But how can you find what you're looking for then?
because it's all in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know roughly which sides, and yeah, because I haven't got tons. I've got about, I don't know, what, 100? But I know
Okay.
roughly where they are.
Well, it's weird how many writers' workspaces seem to be a mix of, obviously there's books, there's always plenty of books, but there seems to be a mix of toys, toys, dolls, funny bits, and spooky stuff. It's the two kind of go together. It's toys, dolls, spooky stuff. I know, Martyn, there's going to be loads of sci-fi stuff knocking around. Doctor
Well,
Who
I mean,
stuff
you
knocking
can't
around.
see where I am, but there's all my Doctor Who figures
Yeah,
behind me there.
yeah.
I've got, in fact, and there's my big Doctor Who figure is here.
Oh, look at him.
That's obviously, as everybody knows, this is a Drashig
Yeah.
from the John Pertwee story, Carnival.
What have I started? What have I started?
1973.
I feel like I'm missing out on a whole.
I tell you
kind
what,
of
he's no
stuff.
he's no match for Virgil Tracy, is he?
Oh, come on, let's.
He's no match for Virgil Tracy.
I'm too
Come on.
disturbed by this.
Bring it on. Bring it on. How's he going to cope against a Hank Williams bobblehead?
Still the same. You could do it. Put him over here.
I wish we could do that. We could move into the next screen. Whoa, hello, it's Bobby.
I'm sorry, but I'm much
Oh.
more minimalist than the three of you.
But also spooky. We've also got to go spooky. Hello. What's that? Plenty of spooky stuff around. Okay, well we've had a little glimpse. Let's we've got about 10 minutes left, so let's feed some more questions in because there's loads of them coming in. Let's see some of Callie's art, says Ian.
I can't. It's downstairs.
It's down. Sorry, Ian. I'm sorry. It's downstairs. Where did you buy Mr. Ben?
I don't know. My mum bought it for my 30th many moons ago.
Okay. All right. And
Shopkeeper.
why haven't I mentioned Chucky, the evil puppet with his guitar? He's just there. I don't want to move him. He's a spooky ventriloquist doll. And I've always had a thing about ventriloquist doll, and I've always wanted one. And I was in a street market in Kent, and there he was sitting in like a pram. And I said to the guy who ran the stall, "How much is he?" And I swear to you, if he'd said 50 quid, I'd have snapped his hand off. He went, "Tenner?" I went, "Yeah." And he's playing an original 1963 Beatles toy guitar. So, because the thing I've got is loads of Beatles dolls, all the Sergeant Pepper dolls, all that. Just, oh, hello, Martyn's grabbed something else. It's his ukulele, ladies and gentlemen.
It's my Batman ukulele.
That's
Yeah.
class. That is
There's a
quality.
tune.
That is quality.
It's
Come on,
very
then.
out tune, actually.
Let's have a little.
Proper
We're going to
ukulele.
finish with a song, so get that in
No,
tune.
No, I was going to take too long to tune up from that.
Oh, okay. I don't think we'll know the difference. Close enough for jazz, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So a few more questions. This is not really on topic. We might as well answer it because Jim's been nice enough to ask it. He just says, how important is it, do you think, for someone who's starting out as an author and has a manuscript to submit and is in search of an agent to put rights in their unpublished novel in case they're the victim of somebody who exploits it? meaning an agent or editor?
I think, well, I would say that most reputable agencies, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's just, obviously it's an act of faith sending out your work, but if you send it to a reputable agency, no one's going to nick your idea. I mean, I think about my agent, and I think when we talk about ideas, we bounce off ideas that really come from me and talk about direction and things. But you know, I just don't think it would happen.
No, I think that's answered it really.
Yeah.
From what I hear, it's more likely to happen in Hollywood. Like if you pitch a script, then something very similar, you know, appears years later. I've heard a lot of that, but I have not heard of it happening in publishing. So
no, I think there are probably a few shysters online. I think there's a lot more of that. You know, send us your idea, we'll publish it. I think there's a bit of that going on. Yeah. But no, as Fiona said, I mean, most reputable, they would never work as an agent again, would they? Or isn't it? You know, it would all get out. It's a lovely small world. So people behave badly and word tends to get out. This is an interesting one. Barry says, do you think that lockdown has resulted in you having ideas for stories that you wouldn't have had during normal times? I don't know about you. I had far more vivid dreams, really some very, very strange dreams. And I just wonder if, you know, the sense of panic and dread and all that sort of stuff has fed into your work at all, the stuff you've been working on.
I suppose it must have done. I mean, yeah, I've had really, really vivid dreams. Horrible, some of them. And it's like it's dredged up every anxiety, you know, that I've had since school days, and it's been bubbling there in dreams. And some of them, I mean, one I had the other night, I wish that I could have, I woke up during the night thinking, write that down. And of course you write down and it's just bollocks when you read it back and stuff. Something that you think would be a brilliant idea. But I think for me, and I mean, it's made me kind of reevaluate what I'm writing, or the kind of things that I'm writing, or the kind of things that I should be writing. And it's made me be a bit bolder, you know, something that I wouldn't have thought of a few years ago, that I think, you know, well, let's just do it. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody doesn't like it. Somebody doesn't want to publish it. Do something else then. You know, and that's how it's started to feel more now for me, is just kind of, I'll just do it. You know, everybody's dying around you, just do it. You know, so it's kind of emboldened me, I think.
Yeah, this is a good question from Kevin. This is very interesting, actually. So, given the variety of notebooks, whiteboards, post-its that you've all referenced, and we have, that's what we've been talking about, are none of you drawn to online software solutions, which are available everywhere, phone, tablets, desktop? Are we all just very analog when it comes to...
I shudder at the thought of that.
I mean, I just go from notebook to notebook.
No, but yeah, me too. Me too.
It's always here. It's always with me, you know.
Yeah. I have played with, I've got a remarkable tablet, which is one of those things that you can draw on and write by hand, and then it translates your handwriting into actual text. And I did play with that for one of my books when I was trying to brainstorm ideas. But I think so much of what we do when we write is on the screen, that there's something, you know, it's nice to have that kind of tangible nature of a piece of paper or a highlighter at the beginning. Like I have I get massive rolls of white paper and scribble.
Wow.
And then that's how my ideas start off. I do put notes in my phone when, you know, middle of the night, whatever, wake up, type something in my phone. But I like to bring it all together with bits of paper and pens, and it feels like the start of a new term. You know,
I think we all love stationery. I think writers have a thing about stationery. Oh, look at that. That's a beauty.
The lovely Susie Holiday, who I think's on later, sent me this actually.
She is.
Yeah, I use bits of paper. I could never. Oh, I've got the idea of using another computer or something. Right, hang on. This will make you laugh, right? Okay, this is something in my shed. This will give you an indication of the type of person I am. So, right, I'm on my son's computer. This caused much hilarity amongst some of my mates. This is my computer that I write all my novels on. It's very old.
That's all right.
It's very the keys are all kind of falling off, they've all rubbed out, and yeah, but I like it. So what can I say?
There's a kind of, I don't know about you, there's a slightly superstitious / OCD thing that I think I certainly recognize in myself, and I've spoken to another lot. Like, so every year I go out and I buy myself this notebook every year, same thing, Ryman's ruled simple notebook, and on the front it just has a sticker that says, this one just said book 22. And I've got 21 more of them in the cupboard. And I will always use the same notebook. It's stupid because one day I'll go to Ryman's and they won't make them anymore. And I'll go, that's it. I can't write another book. But there's so much beautiful stationery out there. And I just buy this bog standard notebook once every year because and I like scribbling in it. I just want to scribble in it, you know.
I buy notebooks, you know, and I get them when I've ordered them and just think, this is too beautiful to write in.
Yes, yes.
And it just sits there, you know, and I think, oh, I'm gonna have to have good words for this one.
It is you, Callie. I thought it was. I was going to say, you have these beautiful notebooks made, don't you?
I use papier, and I've got my finger over it so you can't see it, but I put my working title and my name, and I use the cover to sort of match the plot. So obviously there's a lot of women in this book. It's kind of about women. But I love them, and they're all different, but they're all special because they're quite expensive. But I just love that it's my routine. I get a new one for every book, and I don't buy one otherwise.
That's the one with this. So that new book's the one with spaceships in it, right? That's
right.
Okay. Listen, we're out of time. My God, we're going to have to wind this up. So just to say thank you everybody for watching. Just to remind you that there's some brilliant events coming up. The next panel is Private Eyes with Tim Weaver, Lisa Gray, Chris Brookmeyer, Ellie Griffiths. That's at 4 o'clock. Then you've got Google Street View with Will Dean, SJ Holiday, Adrian McKinsey, Laura Deeman. Then the headline out, you've got John Connolly in conversation with Ian Rankin, all moderated by Brian McGilloway. And then the knockabout, fabulous chaos of 2 crime writers and a microphone later on live. Thank you for watching. You can buy everybody's books, 30% off, link at Waterstones. Thank you for supporting this amazing festival. And thank you to the brilliant Fiona Cummins, C.L. Taylor, Martyn Waits. Thanks everybody for watching. Goodbye.